So there's a murder, there's a conspiracy, there's a threat of tension in the city boiling over into the streets. Kind of sounds like everything's back to normal. Hello, I'm Mark, welcome to The Book Thing, and this is my review for Thud by Terry Pratchett. So we're now up to the 34th book of the Discworld series and the 7th book about the Ankh-Morpork City Watch. Now for the last few of these, we've been kind of taken away from the normal run of things with the City Watch. So the last book that Sam Vimes appeared in was Monstrous Regiment, where he was out in Borogravia and acting as the commander of the Ankh-Morpork forces out there. So he was only there really as a cameo part. Before that, we saw him in Night Watch, where he'd been pushed back in time. And before that, we saw him in The Fifth Elephant, where he was the ambassador to the country of Uberwald. Thud takes us back into a much more traditional City Watch story. Where the story begins is with the apparent murder of Greg Hamcrusher. Greg Hamcrusher is a very influential dwarf in the Ankh-Morpork dwarf community, and he is one of the what are called the low-down dwarves. These are the sort of ultra-traditionalist, fundamentalist dwarves who never ever go above ground. Rumour has it in the city that Hamcrusher was murdered by a troll, and this is at a time when it's approaching the anniversary of the Battle of Coombe Valley, a famous battle between the dwarves and the trolls, each community saying that the other one started it, and it is traditionally a time when both sides start to march and demonstrate and kind of tear the city apart. So the last thing that the city of Ankh-Morpork needs at this point is the apparent murder of a well-renowned dwarf by a troll. So tensions are flaring, the dwarves have closed rank and are trying to prevent the City Watch from actually intervening and investigating the crime. And on top of that, there seems to have been a theft of a famous painting of the Battle of Coombe Valley, which legend has it, holds the secret to a treasure that was in that battlefield hundreds of years ago. So Sam Vimes, as commander of the City Watch, finds himself again in much more of a diplomatic position. He is trying to maintain the peace between the two communities of the trolls and dwarves. He is trying to get the dwarf community to allow his men to investigate the crime and the murder. On top of that, he has got some men who are investigating the theft of the painting, which were Sergeant Colin and Nobby Nobbs, so not too much investigating is actually being done in that regard. And on top of that, he has to allow into the watch, for the very first time, something that he's never allowed in before: an auditor from Lord Vetinari. Yeah, and he has to allow a vampire into the watch as well. So for Vimes, we've got the civic unrest between the trolls and the dwarves. We have got the potential murder that is going to be adding fuel to that fire. We have got a theft which is adding to the mystery. We have got him bowing to political pressure and having to admit a vampire into the watch, something that he fought against for a long, long time. And on top of that, Sam has taken his new duties as a father very, very seriously, and every single day at 6 p.m. sharp, he is there to read young Sam his favourite book, Where's My Cow? By the way, in case you hadn't realised, I am rereading the entire Discworld series, so if you want to see any more of these videos of my reviews of the Discworld books, please consider checking out my channel. If you like what you see, please consider hitting the subscribe button as well. As with all the other City Watch books, Sam Vimes really is the beating heart of this, and it's all about his continued character arc. I mean, when we first met Sam back in Guards, he was a washed-out copper and a drunk. Now he is an important political figure in Ankh-Morpork, and he is a new father. And all of these duties he's taken seriously, especially the fatherhood. He has made it clear that regardless of whatever else is going on, he is going to be there to read his son the story. And as well as speaking to Sam's character, it does actually form a central thread of the story as well, that no matter where he is, he has to be there to read that story to his son. So on top of that, we've got our normal motley crew of watchmen who all have their different arcs. Carrot along with Angua and Sally, the new vampire copper, is the one who is assigned to investigate the murder. Sergeant Colin and Nobby Nobbs are investigating the lost painting. And Sam is the one who's having to keep the peace, but not just keep the peace, but actually keep the watch together, because the watch is made up of a wide variety of species, and there are trolls and there are dwarves, and some of the tension that's in the street is starting to spill over into the watch house as well. It's been a while since we've actually seen just a straight watch story. I mean, Night Watch was set in the past, Fifth Elephant was set up in Uberwald, and even Jingo, to an extent. A large part of that was to do with the war that was in Clatch, rather than the events that were happening in Ankh-Morpork. So Thud feels like a bit of a return to what made the Watch series great in the first place. The different tensions inside the watch house, the smaller crimes which are hinting towards a wider conspiracy, and Sam Vimes against the clock trying to solve it all before chaos rains down on the city. So while it is a bit of a return, it doesn't actually feel like we're going over old ground. It feels like the characters have developed, especially Sam, and actually there's some real character development from the likes of characters like Detritus and Cheery as well. There's an especially sweet thread with Detritus and how he takes a young troll under his wing as well, but I'm not going to go into that because that's going to add spoilers to the story. Along with all of that, it is just as funny as you would expect from a Discworld book. And this all comes along at a really nice pace until we get to what is actually a really, really satisfying conclusion. The satire of the communities clashing over a battle that was fought hundreds of years ago, it doesn't feel like it has a specific real-world analogue to it, but anyone who's watched the news and seen stories about tensions between different communities, and I'm Irish, so obviously some of this very much rings true for some of the things that I've seen growing up as well. It actually adds a real layer of importance and relevance to the story, which if anything feels even more timely today than it did when it came out first. It's not completely flawless, and I think where there are a couple of cracks in it tend to be around where the characters of Angua and Carrot are, and mostly around Angua's insecurity about Carrot and their relationship going forward. It feels a little bit like that's been done to death and hasn't moved on even from Fifth Elephant, where it felt like it had started to move on. The only thing that's been added to that now is there's this potential love triangle there with Sally as well, but because of who Carrot is, you never feel like it's ever really justified for Angua to feel the level of jealousy that she does. But aside from that, I can't really fault Thud. It's a fantastic read. I gave it 4.5 stars, and I'm going to be sorry when I get to snuff and have finally reached the end of the City Watch books. So I hope you enjoyed my review for Thud. The next book that I will be reviewing will be the third book in the Tiffany Aching series, Wintersmith, so I hope to see you for that. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and take care.